So we are discussing the 14th chapter of the third canto of Srimad Bhagavatam. And this chapter is titled Pregnancy of Diti in the Evening, right? So it's a very interesting chapter. So we started off, so in the previous chapter, we have been discussing about the two different appearances of Varahadev. And then after that entire description, we see how Vidura is always so eager to hear. And he actually say, Na cha ati triptaha. I do not feel satisfied by a description. I want to hear more, So please tell me more about yeah. Okay. Please tell me more. I have taken a vow to actually hear. So please tell me more, right? And then um, the main question that Vidura actually asked, he actually said, Kasmat Hetu, for what reason was that the fight between Hiranyaksha and Varahadev? Why did that fight actually happen, right? And then he also makes the point that I am Shraddha Bhaktaya. Everyone remembers this point? Shraddha Dhanaya Bhaktaya. It basically means I am a faithful hearer of this topic. So please, you speak to me. My mind is not satisfied with this hearing. I've become very inquisitive. And the Sanskrit word there was kautuhalam. I'm very eager to hear. So please speak. Please continue to speak about this, right? And Maitreya, he actually starts speaking by actually saying, "Oh, Vidura, you are actually Veera. You are actually, because we discussed this point earlier, that the question that you have asked is actually perfect, because you are a Veera, so you want to hear. You're a Kshatriya, so you want to hear about the chivalrous activities of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, right? And then he actually gives a proof, and he says, just by hearing these topics, one can actually transcend the cycle of birth and death, right? And to actually give a proof of that, anyone remembers what example he gives? He gives an example of a personality who, just by hearing the this Hari Katha, he actually could conquer death and he attained liberation.
Dhruv Maharaj?
Dhruv Maharaj.
Yeah. So he gives a proof that Dhruv Maharaj, just by hearing such topics, he could actually place his feet over death personified, and then that way he actually attained the Vaikuntha planets. Okay, and then the story starts. So Maitreya Rishi starts describing the story, and he starts off by saying how Diti, she is actually afflicted with this lust, with this cupid, right? And she actually makes the point that because of you, my husband, that I'm actually overcome by this feeling of lust, right? So she says, Rita Shaya Ardita. Rita, my heart is Shaya distressed by this sex desire. So hence she actually comes to her husband and she desires that, oh, apatya kama, I want to have a child, and you please fulfill my desire, right? And what are the reasons that we see that this ask of deity was actually not at the right time and right circumstance, right? And what was the first point? The first point was Sandhyaya. She actually came and asked at the very wrong moment in twilight, right? And later on, we read that Maitreya Rishi, Kashyapa, he actually explains to Diti why twilight is actually not a good time to have union, right? So first reason, it was twilight. Second reason, we read that how at that time, Kashyap Muni, what was he doing? Was he relaxed in his bedroom? No. What was he doing? He had just finished a sacrificial fire, right? He was just making his offering. He was just worshiping the Supreme Lord with sacrificial fire. And he was in that moment, right? And then also the sun was setting. Where was he? He was actually still in the sacrificial hall. And he was actually in Samadhi, right? Samahitam. He was in Samadhi. And at that moment, Diti actually approached him. So we read there were 5 points which are actually wrong in terms of the time and circumstances and why DT's approach at the time was actually not right. Right. And then DT further, she gives her reasons why she wants to have the union, and she actually blames her husband for that lust. And she says that it's because of you that I'm feeling kamaha. This Cupid is actually causing so much distress to me, right? And you are the one who can actually Deenam, she says, I am poor, right? So when we actually go to Krishna, we pray what? Oh Krishna, you're Deena Vatsalaha, right? You are the merciful to the poor, not financially poor, poor in the sense that we don't have any Krishna prema, right? We don't have any love for God, that we are poor. But here, when she's saying poor, she's saying, I'm so distressed that my condition is poor. I cannot, have anything at this moment, right? So if someone is like so distressed that even if he has wealth, he cannot use it, then that is a poor person, right? So similarly, she said, I am so poor, right? And anyone remembers the example she gives? I am like a banana tree, and the lust is what? Like an elephant who's actually coming out the banana tree. That is my situation, right? That is my situation. So you please satisfy my desire, right? And then further, she justifies it. She says, like, all my other co-wives, they have children. So why should I be the one without children, right? We all, like 13 of them, we all actually married you and we all are serving you nicely. So why I should not have a child and everyone else has a child, right? So those are the reasons she gave. And then she also says another reason. She says that if you actually bless me with a child who is you know, like you, Kashyap Muni is so great. She's saying if you can bless me with a child like you, then even you will become famous, right? Because through the son, the father will get the glories. So even you will become famous, and that way our fame will spread all throughout the world. And the last reason she says that you are Prajapati. It is your duty to actually procreate, to create more people, right? Create progeny. So hence you fulfill your duty and bless me with a child. Okay. So those were the reasons that DT actually gives. And then, and then last point, she says a great person should not neglect one who approaches him in distress. I'm approaching you, I am distressful, and you are a great person. A great person never avoids or neglects a person who is approaching him in distress. Now, what does Kashyap Muni do? Does he immediately agree to have that union? No, right? But what was the mood in which he starts speaking? One point we actually made is very important here. Did he actually chastise her at this moment? What was the mood in which Kashyap Muni was actually speaking? Anyone remembers?
He was
He was,
praising
yeah,
her so that she will listen to him.
So Bhagavatam particularly stresses on this point that he uses word that was just for pacifying her. Actually, at that moment, he could have been like very strong and said, no, this is not the right time. We'll do it later. Right? I'm not denying it, but this is not the right moment. Right? But he actually just spoke with pacifying words. And Prabhupada makes a point that he was not very strong, to actually just directly say no. Right? And then what does he start off first? He starts glorifying his wife, right? And he says, and he says the wife is actually the better half of the husband. And it's only because of the wife that the husband can actually fulfill the activities of dharma, artha, and kama, right? And we discussed this also, that how the wife is actually like a protective fort, protecting the husband from the influence of Maya, right? So Grahastha can conquer his senses only because of the wife, right? And hence I cannot repay you in this lifetime or in the next. So one may think in the last verse when Kashyap Muni actually says that I cannot repay you either in this life or next, Prabhupada, what does he make in the point? I think so much glorification. It appears that Kashyap Muni is, what is the word Prabhupada uses?
Handpicked.
Handpicked, yeah, handpicked, exactly. Yeah. Or he's saying in a very joking way, so much glorification is indicates that he's handpicked, or he's just saying in a joking way, right? But also the point that Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur is making, that he actually spoke all these verses to delay time. Somehow he wanted that muhurta to pass, the twilight time to pass, so that it would be a favorable moment for their union, right? And then further, now he starts speaking of the reasons why he wants to postpone the union, right? And then he actually says that the main point that he says is about Lord Shiva. He says Lord Shiva with his associates who are like ghosts actually travel all around at this point, right? And if we actually have union at this point, then that is directly disrespecting Lord Shiva, who is your brother-in-law, right? Who is your brother-in-law, because Lord Shiva has married Sati, who's your sister, right? So he's your brother-in-law. And further, I makes a point that even Brahmaji, he actually follows Lord Shiva. He's such a glorious personality. And it's not that we can go and hide from Lord Shiva. No one can hide from Lord Shiva. He is actually so powerful that even if we think that, oh, we can just hide and do it, no, he can actually, he has 3 eyes and he can see everything that's happening. Right? And then also further, she may think that, oh, you're saying that he's my brother-in-law? Then he will forgive us. And to that, what does Kashyap Muni actually say? That no, he's actually equal to everyone, right? He's equal to everyone, and hence he does not consider, oh, this person is my relative, and so on. He's equal to everyone. And hence, if we actually do this at this time, then we will be punished by Lord Shiva, right? We will be subjected to the wrath of Lord Shiva, right? So, after all these reasons, did Diti actually listen? No. She just came and she just held the cloth of Kashyapa Muni, just showing how desperate she is, right? And then at that point we read in text number, we came up to text 30, I think. Right. In 27, we see how he's saying that although no one in this material world is equal to or greater than Lord Shiva, and although his unimpeachable character is followed by great souls to dismantle the mass of nations, he nevertheless remains as if a devil to give salvation to all the devotees. Right. So only unfortunate or foolish people not knowing his glories, they actually laugh at him. But otherwise, everyone else, they understand the glorious position of Lord Shiva. And even 29, he says, demigods like Lord Brahma also follow the religious rites observed by Lord Shiva. Even Brahmaji follows the instructions of Lord Shiva. Then, that is a question of we disrespecting such a great personality. So up to 29 is where Kashyap Muni has spoken. In text 30, we see Maitreya Muni is now actually, Maitreya Rishi is actually making the point that Diti was thus informed, but she was pressed by Cupid for sexual satisfaction. She caught hold of the clothing of the great Brahmana sage, just like a shameless public prostitute. Heavy words, just like a shameless prostitute. Like she was so desperate, in spite of all those words, he wasn't denying her. He was saying that, okay, just wait for one Muhurat and then we'll have it, right? And anyone would have actually said like, okay, one Muhurat, I will somehow tolerate this Cupid. But she was so much affected by Cupid that she lost all her discrimination, right? And we made this point last time that when our senses are so pulled by Maya, when we are actually just bewildered by lust, then we lose our sense of discrimination. Right? And then she actually in text 31, right? Did we discuss 31? I think see. Okay, maybe we can start off with text 31. Okay, so any comments, realizations up to this point, or questions up to this point? So this was the first half of the chapter. Today we'll complete the chapter. Any comments, realizations? Anyone?
Hare Krishna Prabhuji.
Yeah.
I was just wondering, in this purport, it says that the difference between a married woman and a prostitute. But I was wondering, some of the prostitutes may not have been, they do not do that with willingly, right? They might be forced to do that.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So your question is?
Why are they degrading a prostitute as having sexual desire? She may not even have sexual desire. she may be pushed into that, right?
I mean, what you're talking is a situation where, someone is abused and, at that stage where they're like forced to engage in prostitution,
Right.
But generally, when we talk of prostitutes, it is something that someone has selected that as their occupation willfully. Willfully they have selected prostitution as their occupation, and that's what in Vedic culture, like that even we read like how when Krishna actually when he enters Dwarka in the first canto, even in Dwarka there are prostitutes because there are always certain kind of men who need that prostitute. Anyway, this is talking about before that they need that prostitutes to actually fulfill their lusty sexual desire. So that's a willful occupation, right? And that's what it's being referred to here. And Prabhupada, what Martin? You're saying something? Vijay Radhika Martin?
Yeah, I understood that it is talking about people who are willfully engaged. Thank you, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Prabhuji, I like in the purport of text 28, Prabhupada is saying that the real purpose of Lord Shiva is to serve Lord Shri Krishna. He desires all the nice things like nice garments and garlands and ornaments and cosmetics only for Krishna because Krishna is the real enjoy.
Like how we say Vaishnavam Yatha Sham. The best of all Vaishnavas is who? Lord Shiva. Such a glorious position, right? So it is not only like disrespecting a very powerful demigod, but it's actually disrespecting such a great devotee of Lord Krishna. Right? Okay, so should we continue? Okay. So today, those whose turn is, you can read the Sanskrit also. So we'll start with Vrindavan Vilasin Mate, text 31.
Hare Krishna, text 31. Sa viditvatha bharyastastam nirbandham vikramani natva drishtaya rahasi tayathopa visheshahi. Understanding his wife's purpose, he was obliged to perform the forbidden act, and thus, after offering his obeisances onto the worshipable fate, he lay with her in a secluded place. Hare Krishna.
So basically here it says, Sa viditva, right? So viditva is understanding, right? Ataha, thereupon, understanding what? The bharyaya, so his wife's obstinacy, that, oh, she's so adamant to actually have this sexual union. She's so obstinate, even after speaking with all, what my intelligence could, speaking with words to actually pacify her, I have failed. Then what did he do? Natva dishtaya. This is a very nice point. He offered obeisances unto worshipful faith. Right? And what does this mean? It actually means that even though he knew that the act he is actually going to do, Prabhupada makes a point in the purport that Kashyap Muni, it appears from this that he's a worshipper of Lord Shiva. Right? And he knew that Lord Shiva would not be pleased with this act of uniting with deity at this moment. He knew that this is not right. But yet he was actually obliged to act by his wife's desire. So hence he's actually saying, I know I should not be doing this. Lord Shiva, who is my worshipper Lord, will not be pleased, but yet I am forced to engage in so and so act. And because I'm doing this at the wrong moment, wrong time, I'm displeasing Lord Shiva, the result is not going to be good. Right? Result is not going to be good. But what I can do is I can just offer obeisances to worshipful faith that whatever is going to happen, I am just obliged to act at this point. I am just going to offer my obeisances to worshipful faith. So that's Kashyap Muni. And then after this says, Vikarmini Rahasi Taya. Engage in a forbidden act. Ita Atha Upavesha. He lay down with her in a secluded place and he engaged in sexual union. Right? So I was thinking about this point that how sometimes we may be forced or obliged to engage in certain activities, like it could be even like you go to India, or like you are with some relatives and it's like, oh, you should do this, let's go watch this game. And it's oh, my internet is everyone, can you hear me? Is the voice coming okay?
Prabhu, like it's video is not at all good. Voice is little bit breaking, Prabhu.
I don't know what to do. Can try using my phone. Okay, and I'm going to try to continue, or I'll have to drop both and join again. Should I continue?
Sure,
Yes,
Prabhu.
we can turn
Your
off the
voice is
video and
going.
see if that
Yeah.
helps.
I was thinking turn off the video.
Okay.
I think
Okay.
phone is a better option, Prabhu.
Okay, just give me a moment. Let's see.
Yeah.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Rama Hare Rama. Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Is it better? The audio
Yes,
better?
yes. Yeah, audio much better. Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay, so let's try this, and if the problem continues, please let me know. Okay. Okay.
Yes.
So I was making the point that here he actually yeah. So I was actually the point I was making is sometimes we just like are obliged to do some activity, and like even at work we may be obliged. Okay, I have so and so thing, I need to go, and this is not pleasing to Krishna. It's like not good association. Probably at that place there's some meat, all those things. But at least before we go, we can actually offer our obeisances and say like, Krishna, I know this is not good. This is not pleasing for you. But I offer my obeisances that just because of this time, this circumstances, I am forced to do certain things, but I'm offering my obeisances and begging for forgiveness even before engaging in the act. Right? So at least that mood, which is appreciable. Like here we see that Kashyap Muni is saying that, okay, before engage, he offered his obeisances unto worshipful faith, and then he actually engaged in that sexual union. Right? So Prabhupada in his purport, he also compares, he says, Haridas Thakur, he was tempted by a public prostitute in the middle of the night. Right? And Haridas Thakur, he was able to defeat that public prostitute, or he was not overwhelmed by those lust desires, but Kashyap Muni was not able to stop that union. So what is the difference here? What is the difference between Haridas Thakur and Kashyap Muni? Kashyap Muni is certainly a very learned personality. Imagine he's like at the start of the creation, right? Such a learned personality. He knows Shastra. He knows what is right, wrong. He's actually engaging in sacrificial yajna. We see that he's also in samadhi. But what is the difference between Kashyap Muni and Haridas Thakur? How is it that Kashyap Muni failed to actually overcome, but Haridas Thakur was able to successfully overcome that pullings of lust? So what is the key point here? Anyone would like to say?
He's a devotee. Haridas Thakur is a devotee Vaishnava. Actually, he has more
Yeah.
control. And he's not even attacked by the desires at that point.
He was always chanting the
Yeah.
holy name of the Lord. That's all.
I remember
Right.
you speaking about the vertical connection, bro, right?
Hmm. Nice point. Yeah. So all three wonderful points. So first point is Haridas Thakur is a devotee of the Lord, right? And we know the devotees under which energy are they in? Mahatmanas tu mam partha devim prakritim ashrita. They are not even under the influence of this Maya energy. They are actually under shelter of Devi Prakriti, the transcendental energy, the internal. They are under the shelter of the internal energy of the Lord. That means what? They're always protected by the Lord, right? They are under shelter of the internal energy of the Lord, right? That's the first point. So being a devotee means you're protected by Krishna himself. You are under the internal potency. Second point, which was very nice, is always chanting the holy name of the Lord, right? So, like there was a story with Prabhupada that like Prabhupada made this point that, I am not affected by lust. This was, I think this was in a car ride or something, and Prabhupada was making the point that there's no chance that I'll be affected by lust. And all the disciples were thinking that, how will we actually ever achieve that stage where you can be actually free from 100% lust? That is a very, very high stage. How can someone attain that? And disciples were actually thinking that, is that even possible for us? And Prabhupada made the point. He actually further clarified, and he actually said the point. It's not so much that I'm not pulled by lust, but I have no time for lust. And that was a very key point. And disciples understood, yes, even though the desires may come, but I don't have time for it. My life is so busy in serving Krishna that even desires come, is like, okay, maybe later. After I finish this seva, then I'll think about it. And then that seva ends. Oh, after I finish the next seva, then I'll think about it. And then just our life is filled with so much seva that there's no time for these desires, right? And similarly, Haridas Thakur, what do you say? Oh, I have taken a vow to chant 300,000 names of Krishna. When I finish it, then I will actually satisfy you, right? And that way, the whole night passed away. And then prostitute actually said, he told the prostitute, oh, whole night is over. Maybe come tomorrow, come tomorrow, and then I'll satisfy you, right? So in that way, right? So when we, so that's the point. That's a key point, that we fill our life so much with Krishna, with association, with seva, that there is no time for all these other desires that pull us away, right? Okay. And then third point, what was the third point someone said?
Upward
First,
connection.
what's that?
Mataji was saying about an upward connection to Krishna.
Yes, upward connection. Right? So that is similar to the first point, that finally we have our connection with Krishna. We have connection with all these people around us. People come, we have all these interactions, but what really matters is our upward connection. Right? So we may have set our boundaries, our rules and regulations, that I will not break the 4 regulative principles. We actually do our sadhana every day. But finally, the protection comes from our connection to Krishna, our devotion, our faith, and where we are actually complete dependent. Krishna, you please give me protection. From our side, to actually fight with Maya, it is impossible. It's impossible, right? Like I give this example, I've given this before, I'm sure, is that, let's say you enter into someone's house, as you're getting close, enter into his, like, let's say his wall, his close compound wall. You enter inside, and a huge, ferocious dog comes and starts barking on you. And one may say, like, I am, a huge dog is coming and barking. What hope do we have? We cannot fight that dog. But what can we do? We can call out to the master and say, whatever the person's name is, like, call out, oh, so and so, help me. And as soon as we say, then the master says, oh, no, I know that person. I know that person. Immediately he says his dog, whatever the name is, go away. I know this. I have actually invited him. I have a connection with him. Similarly, our way of being protected from Maya is she's very difficult, very difficult to overcome. But our hope is our calling, our taking shelter of Krishna. Okay. So that was text 31, right? And Prabhupada makes a point that Haridas Thakur used to chant 300,000 times daily. Imagine 300,000 times daily, right? 172 rounds. We struggle with 16 rounds, and imagine chanting 172 rounds every day. Okay. Okay, so let's continue with text number 32.
Prabhu.
Yeah.
So Prabhu, I just was thinking that for being like Haridas Thakur's situation, it's a prostitute. So we already know it's our vows and against the vows, but here it is wife, so for a husband, I mean, that's the life anyways. I mean, it's not that it's for the first time. Kashyap already has many children. So how, I mean, how do we understand this situation? Like,
yeah. I mean, yeah. So the point is, yes, it was lawful in the sense that it is within the marriage, right? It is legally marriage, so it is within that. But the whole point that previously also, the point of why is it she is actually being compared to a prostitute is because she was actually coming and asking at the wrong moment. When, imagine he just, this is fire yagya. And imagine a wife coming and saying like, okay, you want to have union. And at the time, Lord Shiva, such a great personality, he is around. Would anyone even think? So she was so much conquered by Cupid, by lust, that her asking at that moment, even though it was within the law of Grahast Ashram, was actually not right. And hence, like, that's why in the previous verses, we went through all the reasons why her asking at that moment was actually wrong. And then, like, even like, if you see in the highest sense, even in Grahast Ashram, what do we see in Bhagavad Gita? Krishna says, when you are actually when you are engaging in union for the purpose of procreating Krishna conscious children, then Krishna says, I am that union. So even in Grahast Ashram, yes, the union, finally the highest standard, it should be only for the purpose of procreating to get nice Krishna conscious children. And this procreation, like, even though it is within the marriage life, is going to lead to good children? No, it's going to be the worst disaster, right? Hiranyaksha, Hiranyakashipu, and we'll read that further, are going to be produced from this union, right? So the whole purpose of union, which is actually a very sacred act, that whole purpose is actually getting lost in this. And hence this is like compared to, like, that's why the previous word says prostitute. This is like a very strong word, but because of this entire reason. Okay, so text number 32.
Hare Krishna. Atopasprisyak salilam pranan ayamya vagyataha dhyayan jalapa virajam brahma jyoti sanatanam. Translation, Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Thereafter the Brahmana took his bath in the water and controlled his speech by practicing trance, meditating on the eternal effulgence and chanting the holy Gayatri hymns within his mouth. Hare Krishna.
So Prabhupada makes an interesting point. So what did Kashyap Muni do? So they engaged in the union, right? So that was previous verse where it said they laid down in a secular place. Now ataha, right? In the previous verse, ataha. So it's basically like sequence, like, okay, after this, what happened? So thereafter, what did he do? Upasprisha salilam. So he touched or taking bath in the water. Prabhupada makes a point that, this cleanliness is immediately after using the bathroom or immediately after engaging sexual intercourse, one should actually take bath. It's just an aspect of cleanliness. So he actually did that. He took bath, and then pranan ayam ya. Then after that, he practiced trance, vak yataha, controlling the speech, jajapa brahma. That means he chanted within his mouth, japa, right? He said japa, chanting japa, right? Japa, brahma. He chanted within his mouth, Gayatri mantra. And then dhyayan jyoti sanatan, meditating on jyotihi. Jyotihi is what? Referring to the eternal, the Brahma Jyoti, the eternal effulgence. Right? No, Prabhupada makes this point that Kashyap Muni, he meditated on the Brahma Jyoti, right? Why? Like that indicates what? That, normally we say, okay, if you're an elevated person, you're a devotee, you're meditating on what? You're meditating on the direct form of three-folded bending form of Shyam Sundar Krishna. But here he was not meditating on that. He was meditating on Brahma Jyoti. And Prabhupada takes this point to actually make the point that for a personalist, he is actually more stronger in controlling his senses than the impersonalist. Can you relate to this point? For a personalist, what is his meditation? His meditation is directly on the form of Radha Golokananda, Radha Shyamsundar. So when those desires are coming, in his mind, he's thinking about the form of the Lord, right? And we have read in Bhagavatam that it says that just by meditating on the eyebrows of Krishna, one can conquer over Cupid, So meditation on the personal form